Today, what I'd like to talk with you guys about is reviews. Yes, reviews, they are important and they are the lifeblood of any business. That is your reputation online. That's how your customers see you. That's the present day word of mouth. That's how other people are saying, hey, these people are all right and they're not going to take your money and run. Like a pool builder that I know. You swimming in that? Because I'm not. And you can do better than that. What I'd like to do is I'd like to start off with our negative reviews. I don't want to put words into anybody's mouth, so I'm going to read our latest negative review. It said, had a fence installed a few months ago. They placed the fence over a sprinkler system and damaged the lines. They did fix it after I complained, but their contract says not responsible for damages to sprinkler. I labeled the sprinkler system with flags. Just to clarify, that means you put flags at the heads.
Very helpful. Thank you.
One gate sloppily put together and had to fix that. Gate's still sloppy. Disappointed with the whole project and wished I had never met them. They installed all the fencing not at property line but short of the line. My neighbors are getting fences, but I told them not to use SWI as they are the highest price and not worth it. So basically there is one person that says stay away from these guys. The next negative review that I have is simply 1 star. This came from our online estimate tool. Somebody went on at about midnight, put in their address, got a rough budget price for their fence, and didn't like the price. And so they quickly at midnight left us a negative review, not having any contact with anybody in our office or our sales team to say, hey, what's driving this, or can we choose some different options? So this is somebody that just really loves to leave negative reviews.
Why are you the way that you are?
So let's talk about the first negative review. There's always 2 sides to a story, and I will tell you the side to this story.
You can't handle the truth!
As the customer pointed out, we do not take responsibility for irrigation lines. Yes, he did mark the heads, but that does not tell us where the pipes go at all. So marking the heads, not helpful in the least.
What were you thinking?
And he even said we fixed it, but was still complaining about the fact that we fixed it, even though he told him we aren't responsible for it and we won't fix it. So I can't fix that. He asked us to fix the gate. I'm not sure what he's talking about. Sloppily put together. The gates are prefabricated from the aluminum manufacturer, since this is an aluminum project. I mean, the hinges are the hinges, and there's not a whole lot to be sloppy about. We don't build the gates. Not to say that maybe we put a latch on wrong. I'm not really sure. The last thing that he said is that it's off the property line. Now, we screwed up. It's probably that far off the property line. Apparently, that's a lot of land to this gentleman. We screwed that up. We should have done better, maybe communicated better with him and understood what he was looking for. Now, our reply to this gentleman is going to be the fact that we are sorry we have disappointed him so bad. We did actually reach out to this gentleman via email and phone and ask him if we could come and resolve his issues. We would pull the fence out, move it over the property line, do whatever it takes to make sure that it meets his expectations.
And I'm trying to make it right.
But he just wants to be mad about it. It will not contact us. And before posting this review, he had not reached out to us to fix anything. This is oftentimes a lot of what we see is people just mad.
That makes sense.
We know we're the most expensive. We're doing things completely different than everybody else. His fence is also a lot stronger than everybody else's. Does he mention any of that? No. And so now what we need to talk about is how we're going to respond to this gentleman. I could put all that out there. I could say, you know what, we over communicated and he just wants to be mad about things. He's just being a jerk. He won't let us fix the problem. So what do you want us to do about it? We're great people. But instead, we're going to do what most people will do, and that is we're going to take the high road. We're just going to say, we're sorry we disappointed you. We're sorry we haven't met your expectations. If you would like to reach out, we will relocate your fence free of charge. We will come back and fix the gate free of charge. What we want is to deliver a 5-star experience, and we're sorry that we fell short of your expectations. That's what we want to do. We want a 5-star experience every time.
That's a good quality.
I think that's what we all want. And sometimes we got to admit that we screw up. I've screwed up several times. We screwed up on this one by putting the fence not on the property line. I'm not sure how we screwed the rest of that up, but we're not going to talk about that. We need other people to see that we're not petty, that they're not going to have problems with us, that we are going to be there to fix their issues. If we respond and we say, hey, it's all the customer's fault, other customers are going to see that and they're going to say, you know what, these people just push all the blame onto somebody else and don't stand behind what they do, and this isn't really who I want to do business with. The other thing is that I've had several people tell us that I like to see a negative review every once in a while. We all know nobody's perfect. You have to have some negative people out there, and if you don't have any negative reviews, it makes it look like maybe you're doing something to avoid them, perhaps paying people for reviews, which is against Google's policy, or doing some other shady stuff. So they like to see that you're real. We screw up.
Well, nobody's perfect.
Everybody screws up. What I would like to see is a review like this one that says, hey, We started off bad. I posted a negative review. They came out and fixed everything. Now I'm gonna give them 4 stars. That would be fair. That's what I'd like to see. As for the gentleman that just didn't like the price and wants to leave a review, you're gonna have that too. I had a bad review one time. Somebody thought one of our drivers of a pickup was behind them with our brights on. They weren't. The petty ones like that, what we always reply with is we have no record of you being a customer. Then we try and dispute those because it really doesn't have any reflection on anybody's genuine experience with our company. It's just somebody being petty. It could be they thought one of our drivers cut them off in traffic or whatever. I mean, in Florida's the home of road rage, I feel like. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. But they're very aggressive, they're very grumpy, they're always in a hurry, and there's a lot of very aggressive driving down here. So it wouldn't surprise me if someday somebody doesn't pop up with a review saying, hey, I just don't like the way these people drive. Our company policy on the negative people that call in, because that happens too. Company policy is we're like, we've had a lot of problems with that driver. This is his last chance and we're definitely gonna remove him. And that makes the person feel like either number one, they're a terrible person and they're like, oh, thank goodness, they're really taking my thing seriously. Or they're like, well, you don't necessarily need to fire him for it, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention. So that's our standard response if anybody calls into the office and complains about driving is we've had a couple other complaints about this driver and when he comes in this evening, we're gonna have to terminate him. So we appreciate you calling us. And that makes the person on the other end of the phone feel heard.
Thanks for calling again.
The bad thing about reviews is that we are so terrified of ever getting a bad one. I have gone to the end of the earth to make some of these people happy just to make sure we don't get a negative review. Customer dead in the wrong, absolutely 100% dead in the wrong. I've got one now where the customer is adamant we need to come move their fence because they told us to put the fence where we put it and now the HOA is complaining and we were like, no, we can't put it there. And he's like, you will put it right here because that's where I said to put it and I don't care what the HOA says, I will fight them on my own, you're gonna put it right here. And that puts us in an incredibly difficult spot because on the one hand, I don't put it where the customer wants it and then they're mad. On the other hand, on the flip side, I put it where they want it and then the HOA says you need to move it and then the customer comes back to me and says you put it in the wrong spot and I didn't say that. That's kind of where we're at with this. And if this comes up, I will probably have to move that fence free of charge just because I'm terrified of a negative review. And I really can't say the whole story. And that's, I think, the way most of us are. We're terrified of that bad review. I think that it would be really nice if there was a way that we could share our experience with customers sometimes. What we have is a situation now where Google lets one person tell the side of the story and the other person doesn't really get to share anything. Think about Uber. If only one side of the Uber ride could share their experience. Maybe only the customer could share their experience about the driver, but the driver had no recourse to rate the customer. Because you can be a bad customer. And that's what we have with Google. We don't get to rate our customers. Never do we get to rate the customer and say, hey, they were just a terrible customer. So I think the time is upon us that we've got a paradigm shift where maybe it's time that both sides get to tell their story. And if you're a really terrible customer, maybe that needs to cost you financially, but there's no way to do that right now.
That's what we need.
It's food for thought. Let me know what you think, whether or not, if you're in the service industry, you would like to be able to rate your consumers. And I don't just mean rate the bad ones. I mean, some customers are fantastic. We've had some great customers. It's really only about 1 in 10 or 20 that's terrible. Sometimes it's really hard to move past the terrible ones. They consume us because we hate that negativity in our life. The terrible ones really, they kind of wash out. One bad one can wash out 10 really good ones in our minds because we focus so much on the negative and it can just zap your energy. And sometimes that's what happens to me is I let those people, and that's how my bucket gets overflowed. I've got one person that just is such a big problem that ruins my entire day. I've had that multiple times. That's all I have to say about reviews today. I'm Mark with Successful Contractor, just trying to keep the wheels on this little old bus we call SWI Fence down here in Florida. I hope you have a good dang day.